Have you ever faced a moment where every fiber of your being screamed quit? Not because you were weak, not because you were broken, but because continuing felt irrational. Now take that moment and stretch it for days. Strip away sleep, strip away certainty, strip away your sense of self. This is not a story about muscles failing or lungs burning. This is a story about the mind when it is pushed into a corner with no exit except surrender or survival. The first sounds are not explosions or shouted commands. They are shallow breaths, boots dragging through wet sand, the scrape of rucksacks that feel heavier with every step, not because the weight has changed, but because the mind is running out of reasons to carry them. Faces are hollowed, eyes unfocused. Some candidates stare straight ahead like they are afraid to look inward. Others already have, and what they found scared them more than any physical obstacle ever could. Everyone talks about the physical hell of special operations selection. The miles, the cold water, the endless repetitions. That is the cover story. The real battlefield is internal. Physical readiness is assumed. It is the entry fee. The true filter is psychological resilience. The ability to keep going when the math no longer works in your favor. When effort does not equal reward. When there is no finish line in sight and no reassurance that there ever will be one. Selection is designed to feel endless, not long, endless. Days blur together until time loses meaning. Candidates stop counting hours because it only makes the weight heavier. Instructors understand something fundamental about the human mind. We can endure almost anything if we believe it will end soon. So they remove the belief. No clocks, no schedules, no answers. Just the next task, delivered without emotion, as if it has always been waiting and always will be. Sleep deprivation is not an inconvenience here. It is a weapon. After a certain point, exhaustion stops feeling like tiredness and starts feeling like erosion. Thoughts fragment. Simple decisions become negotiations. Memory slips. A candidate might forget why they started, or worse, convince themselves that the reason was never good enough to begin with. In those moments, the body still has fuel. The legs can still move. It is the mind that begins to sabotage the mission. Sensory overload follows. Noise when silence is needed. Silence when reassurance would save someone. Bright lights in the dark. Darkness in unfamiliar terrain. The nervous system never settles. Stress hormones flood the bloodstream until anxiety becomes the baseline. The brain, desperate for relief, looks for the fastest way out. Not the smartest, not the bravest, the fastest. Isolation does the rest. Even when surrounded by others, candidates feel alone. There is no encouragement, no sense of shared struggle. Everyone is a competitor, but not in a traditional sense. You are not trying to beat the man next to you. You are trying not to let his suffering mirror your own. Because when you see doubt on someone else's face, it gives your own doubts permission to speak. Instructors are not cruel for cruelty's sake. They are precise. Every scenario is engineered to expose weakness. Not physical weakness, personal weakness. The fear of disappointing family. The need for external validation. The inability to tolerate ambiguity, the habit of catastrophizing failure. They watch, they wait, and when they see a crack, they apply pressure exactly where it hurts. A candidate who prides himself on control is placed into chaos. One who relies on fairness is shown none. One who draws strength from praise receives only silence. The message is constant and unspoken. Everything you think you need to keep going will eventually be taken away. What remains is the truth of who you are when there is nothing left to lean on. This is where most people quit. Not in a dramatic collapse. Not screaming or broken on the ground. They quit quietly. They walk up, hand in their number, and step out of frame. Later, many will say it was physical, that their body failed. But operators who have been there know better. The body rarely gives out first. The mind makes a case. It builds a narrative that quitting is logical, responsible, even noble. The psychology of surrender is subtle. It begins with perceived unfairness. Why is this happening to me? Why am I being singled out? Then comes loss of control. No matter what I do, it is never enough. Then self-efficacy erodes. Maybe I am not who I thought I was. Maybe I never belong here. Each thought feels reasonable in isolation. Together, they form a trap. Cognitive biases take over. Short-term relief outweighs long-term purpose. The brain prioritizes ending discomfort now over achieving a goal later. There is also the false consensus effect. If others are quitting, it must be the right choice. The environment amplifies these distortions until quitting feels less like failure and more like clarity. Operators who have endured selection describe it as mental gymnastics. One former operator recalled standing in freezing water, shivering so hard his teeth hurt, thinking only about the warmth of a dry blanket. He said the thought almost ended his career, not because he wanted comfort, but because he wanted certainty. Certainty that the pain had meaning, certainty that it would stop. When he realized no one was going to give him that, he made a decision, not to finish the course, just to take one more step. That is the secret instructors never announce. You do not survive selection by being tough. You survive by being patient, by shrinking the horizon of your suffering until it fits inside the next minute, the next task, the next breath. Purpose becomes immediate. Abstract dreams of elite units and future missions are replaced by something smaller and more manageable. Do not quit right now. Resilience is not a personality trait. It is a skill forged under pressure. Candidates who make it learn how to talk to themselves, not with motivation or hype, but with clarity. This hurts. I am still functioning. This is uncomfortable. I am not in danger. Pain becomes data instead of a threat. Fear becomes a signal, not a command. They learn to reframe. Cold is not punishment. It is information. Fatigue is not failure. It is expected. The mind stops asking why this is happening and starts asking how to adapt. That shift changes everything. Control returns, not over the environment, but over perception. And perception is where the battle is actually fought. Purpose deepens. Some think of teammates they have not met yet. Others think of family or of a version of themselves they refuse to abandon. The strongest motivation is rarely ego. It is identity. I am not someone who quits when things stop making sense. That belief, repeated silently, becomes armor. Even after selection ends, the psychological gauntlet does not release its grip. There is debriefing, reflection, in some cases, quiet reckoning. Candidates who pass often struggle to explain what they endured, not because it was classified, but because language feels insufficient. How do you describe a place where your own mind turned against you and you had to fight it into submission? The impact lasts. Many report increased tolerance for stress, but also a deeper awareness of their limits. Selection does not make you invincible. It makes you honest. Honest about what breaks you and what does not. That knowledge carries forward into operations, into leadership, into life beyond the uniform. The lessons do not belong exclusively to soldiers. Most people will never face selection, but everyone will face moments engineered by life to make them quit. Careers that stall, relationships that drain, dreams that stop rewarding effort. The same psychological traps appear, the same urge to escape discomfort by walking away. Mental fortitude is not about ignoring pain. It is about understanding it. It is about recognizing when the mind is lying to protect itself. It is about choosing values over impulses, one decision at a time. You do not need a rucksack or an instructor screaming in your face to practice that. You need awareness, and you need honesty. The men who pass selection are not fearless. They are familiar with fear. They know why.